Welcome back to another Terriers Talk episode, and today we're going to be speaking about the two new incomings to the club and the two outgoings that left this week. So speaking about Chris Maxwell and Tom Edwards on the incoming side, and then Nicholas Bilokapic and also Tyreece Simpson. But we'll do incomings first, and I suppose that starts off with Chris Maxwell. Jay, your first thoughts on him?
Yeah, I think it's a solid addition, to be fair. I don't think many people expect anything differently. In hindsight, it's very good now. Obviously, Bilokapic has left the club to get someone else in. I think it bodes well for the club, and it probably bodes well for him as well. Just over 30 years old, so to be tied down on a 2-year contract at a Championship club is good. I think it's always really good to promote competition, and especially within goalkeepers. I think we saw Bilokapic, even when Nichols was injured last season, he did really well. So hopefully, it's just more experience, and I think he's had a very successful career so far. Just looking at his stats, he made 31 appearances for Blackpool last season, albeit a relegated Blackpool. Warnock seems to be a fan of him. He says he's got a good character. He like the way he conducts himself, and he's a great keeper. So yeah, I think it's really positive. We saw him for, correct me if I'm wrong, a half at
I think it
Stockport.
was the half of the second half. Yeah, about 60.
Yeah, didn't have much to do, but from what I saw, commands his box well, good, decent distribution. Of course, time will tell, and we're not planning to see him for the whole season, but I'm confident that if he is relied on, he'll do well because he's got a good record. Individually, he's done really well. Golden Glove, Team of the Year for League One. So yeah, I'm happy.
Yeah, I'd reiterate that as well. Like, I think it's a smart sign, and I think that's something that the entire fan base has gone on about since Nagel came in and spoke about the financial limitations that we were going to have as a club. It's going to be one of them summers where we don't have much to spend unless there's outgoings.
Yeah,
So getting a free agent keeper in Chris Maxwell, who's a good free agent keeper as well. Um, it's really smart. It's a really good bit of business for town. And I think that, like you say, when he gets a chance, if he gets a chance to get games and stuff, he'll do well. Obviously Warnock likes him, which is a big thing, and I think it's someone that Warnock trusts, even though I don't think he's managed him. I think I'm correct in saying that. It's somebody that on the face value he can trust, and that's something that obviously Warnock's been massive on this summer, signing
yeah.
people and players that he trusts.
Mm.
Um, so it's a good sign for me. It don't get me off my seat, but it's not a signing where you're ever really going to get off your seat as a goalkeeper.
No,
So
no,
invest
I agree.
smartly, invest well, and it's really good. Uh,
Yeah,
I think that's
I
really
agree.
about as much as you can say on a keeper, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point there. Warnock's not managed him, and he's probably one of the few players who Warnock hasn't managed. But if you look at his career, he's got a very sturdy career. He's quite a journeyman, but that brings experience. Within 4 years, he made 110 appearances for Fleetwood. He's made over 100 appearances for Blackpool. Um, Played nearly 80 times down the road at Preston. Between 4 years, loans at Charlton, Hibernian, Wrexham. It's what we need. I think any experience in the dressing room is good experience. We don't really have many senior players anymore, so I think a lot goes underappreciated in
Yeah.
terms of experience in the dressing room. So I think for him to join the likes of Hoggy with experienced members, Tom Lees, Michael Hellig, all experienced. So I think, as you said, there's not really much more to say other than it's good business, it's smart, and yeah, happy.
Yeah, I think it makes sense then to move on to Tom Edwards, who got announced about an hour ago.
Yeah,
It's a sign that we all needed, that we all thought we needed. We needed a right back with obviously Ollie Turton's injury. There's a
yeah,
bit of a grey area there because you don't actually know how he's going to be when he properly gets back up and running. Because if I'm correct, he's not back yet.
no,
Or if he is, he's very lightly training. So we needed a right back because you can't throw him in right at the deep end because he came back briefly at the end of last season, didn't he? And then there was injury issues again. So
Yeah,
I think everyone knew we needed right back, and it's not someone that's going to get me out my seat.
no.
But you'd argue again, it's quite smart business.
It's definitely one that doesn't get anyone off the seat, and that's no disrespect to Tom. I'm sure he's not watching this, but it's one of those where you think, right, I think it's quite similar to Maxwell in terms of we needed that position. Because if you look, you've got Sorba Thomas, who is more of a wing back, has next to no defensive capabilities, although he did unbelievably well at Stockport. You've got Brodie Spencer, who is still very raw.
Yep.
You've got Edmonds Green, who can play it right back, but is quite honestly flourishing in midfield.
Yeah.
Um, and then who have you got? You need to move people across. Ruffles has played right back once or twice. I know Yuta is quite diverse and can shift into different positions, but to have an out and out right back who I've read can go forward a bit and play wing back, it is decent. Just looking at Warnock's comments here, he said a right back has been priority for us this summer due to Turner's injury. So it's great we can welcome Tom to the club. I agree.
Yeah,
Um,
it's massively positive in it because I think it's identifying the roles that we need, but it's then signing smartly. And obviously, he played at Barnsley last season. I believe it last season, and I think their fans said that he was all right.
10
Um,
appearances, yeah, steady.
Realistically, he's probably not going to be the starting wing back. But at 24, he's obviously still got time to progress in his career.
Yeah.
Spent a lot of time in America. I mean, he's been at Stoke since he was about 10, apparently.
Mm.
And they apparently like him as a player, but he just hasn't performed for whatever reason. So at 24, if this move goes well, obviously under Warnock, it can potentially be a kickstart for his career. So whether that's the case or not, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
But it's definitely something that can be looked at and gone. It's somebody that needs to get the career back on track. So he'll be trying everything that he can under Warnock. I don't really think there's probably a better manager to try and get your career back on track, as you can see with Karoma, for example.
Robber.
So
And it's probably sober as well, yeah.
yeah, it's one of them where it means that we've not spent big money on somebody. It's probably not spent a lot on wages. So it
No,
means that we've
exactly.
got more money to invest elsewhere in the squad, such as on a striker, this, that, the other.
Up front, hopefully, yeah.
Um, so again, it's not someone I'm massively, massively eager about, but it's someone that I'm looking at and going, okay, that'll do for me. It's one of them, and then I think he said in his
Yeah.
interview
I mean,
today that he's got a long throw on him. So I believe it was Tom. I can't remember the guy's name, but I seen a
hopefully.
tweet about it, and it's just a video of Warnock laughing. So you know, if Warnock can get him doing long throws into Kyle Udlin this season, it'll
Time
be an
Woodley,
interesting
yeah. There
prospect.
you go. Well, I mean, yeah. And I think with a signing like this that no one's really heard of unless you are a Stoke fanatic or a football fanatic, it's good. It's always good to get the thoughts of his parent club. Now, I put a tweet out earlier under Stoke's announcement and just simply put, what can we expect Stoke fans? And it's fair to say there's a very mixed bag. So if we just look at some of these, unfortunately, you've got a League Two player at best. Pray won't be starting right back. I think we've done you on this one. Relegation, expect League One football this year, defensive price of a paper towel in water, a massive McDonald's receipt. But conversely, you've got looked a decent hard tackling fullback who has good engine. I think the praise he was getting allowed him to get ahead of himself, if you believe what you read. So hopefully, it's just his mindset and that his ability will take over. And I know we all know on Twitter you take things with a pinch of salt. So fingers crossed, Stoke fans aren't being too serious. Or however, it might just need a change of environment. You
Yeah,
see players who have a change of environment or a change of manager. I think the easiest one to say would be Josh Coroma, and it's just a completely different player. So hopefully, under Warnock, I don't think there's any manager better than Warnock for nurturing players. He does, flourish, and time will tell.
yeah, 100%. And I think that leads us on to the outgoings, and I think we've missed a big one when we were talking about him, and that's we'll do them chronologically, and that's Etienne Camara, who
Yeah,
left last week to Udinese.
yeah,
The Italian club announced it a day, maybe 2 days earlier than Town did,
2 days. Yeah, yeah,
um, which was an interesting one. But there was rumours that he was going to leave about a week before.
yeah.
The fees rumoured to be around €2 million,
2 million.
so
Yeah,
make of that what you will. And there's supposed to be a sell-on clause or there's something clause in the future
yeah,
if he performs well. It's one where Warnock stated a few weeks ago that he just didn't seem like he had the mental aspect of the game to him,
yeah,
and that he looked to move away and he was wanting to move away. And I think that having somebody like that at such a young age, there's no point having them with 12 months left on his contract to get any fee is a big thing for the club. So don't get me wrong, I think having him around would be a good thing, but I don't think we're in a position to say it's a massive loss to the squad.
You know what? I just think, and people might disagree, to take the money and run
Yeah,
because the amount of times Warnock has said in press conferences last season, in press conferences this pre-season, and all the way up until he left, Etienne can be a brilliant player, just needs to put his mind to it.
yeah,
I've heard that so many times at a parents' evening. Oh, he's a great student. If he puts his mind to it, he'll do well.
yeah.
Everyone
And
knows how
perhaps
that
didn't.
feels. He just didn't. So it's clear to say and clear to see. Excuse me. He's got a very very naturally. He's naturally good for football. That took me a while to say.
Yeah,
Um, but it's just up there. It's in his head. He's very raw. He sometimes dwells too long on the ball. Sometimes doesn't give the ball enough attention. Loses the ball in midfield in vital areas. But he's what 19, 20.
yeah,
He'll learn. I think for him to come from France when he was, I think it was 15 or 16, to be here for a good amount of time, develop his game, develop his body, grow naturally, and as a footballer is a great thing. I think that's credit to our, well, I'd like to say academy, but we don't really
the
know what
B
it is.
team kind of
It's
system.
credit to our, yeah, it's credit to our process. But
Yeah,
I think, as you said, and as Warnock said, I think it was the right time for a player like that to move on, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we can either reinvest that money, although I know we are quite constrained with regulations due to our takeover. But yeah, I mean, or just invest the money. And I know Mr. Nagel will be smart with it because from what I've seen, he's a very, very smart businessman.
yeah,
But as I said before, I think take the money and run. And good luck to him.
yeah. Because I mean, realistically, I don't think Town lose in this situation.
No.
With 12 months left on his contract, you either keep him with the risk of he doesn't sign a contract, which I believe it came out some time ago saying that he wasn't gonna. So at that point, it's kind of a case of, well, what do you do then? Do you just kind of sit around and wait for him to leave, or how do you actually play it? And I think getting the money for somebody who probably won't sign a contract rather than taking the risk on him, maybe signing a contract in 6 months, it's smart. And the fact that we've got a sell on clause on him as well, supposedly, if he does well, he definitely could go for 10, 15 million quid in a few years' time,
Yeah.
maybe more. And if Town get a percentage of that, then we can make another million, 2 million off his sale at least. So
Yeah.
I'm happy with it. In the situation that
Yeah.
we're in, I'm happy with
Agreed.
it. Next sell was Nicholas Bilokapic, which shocked everyone. Nobody, I think everyone knew that Bilo was going to leave this window, but there was a lot of talk about it being loan, and then Peterborough's owner said on Twitter that it was quite a long process in the past 24, 48 hours of the deal to make it a permanent signing because they wanted somebody long term. They didn't want a loan deal. So it's a bit of a shock, but it doesn't really affect us. It means there's a lot of confidence in Nichols that he's going to stay for at least this season because
Yeah.
Bill's definitely a good enough keeper to have around and be as a second keeper to Maxwell if needs be. If Nichols were to leave, but if he wanted to go and play football, first team football, there wasn't really a guarantee of it here, so it makes sense to get some money for him, let him go do his thing, and it it's one of them. It's one of them in football where it just probably isn't the right time for him to be here. And again, we've
Yeah.
supposedly got a sell on clause on him. So again, if he does well, then there's potential money there in the future. But it's one of them where you look at and you say, okay, he's gone. Not going to get upset about it.
Yeah, agreed. And I think some people probably got more upset than needed. Although who am I to tell people how to feel? It's a tricky one. I get where some people come from, and I get where the others do. Um, I don't think it's that much of a big deal. However, there's no doubt that he's a very, very, very talented goalkeeper
Yeah,
at such a young age to come in last season and fill in for Nichols when he was injured, as he did, like he did, with an unbelievable amount of professionalism, cool, calm head. I think that was evident at Hull away. Unfortunately, his clean sheet was tarnished in the last minute, but that's town for you. No, I mean, really good luck to him because he'll do very well. A League One move is really good for him.
yeah,
Um, and I'm not sure whether he's going to be first or second choice, but I think he'll do very well regardless. I think it's really good to have that experience as well. Coming from Australia, spending 3, 4 years at town, and then, by the age of 20, 21, you're at a League One club in your second club in England. It's really good for him. Um, I think we've done well by um, getting some experience in Maxwell as well.
yeah,
So it's not like our second keeper is going to be some 18-year-old who no one's heard of because, a goalkeeper in the championship is massively important.
yeah,
I think we originally thought it was going to be a loan deal. I think everyone thought that, but they've done very well too. And I know their owner's quite vocal on Twitter. He said it's been a really tough one to get out. It's turned from a loan deal to a permanent deal in 2 days. So fair enough to them. And yeah, sell on clause, bit of money. Again, happy days.
exactly. And then, last but not least, at the moment anyway,
Mm.
Tyreece Simpson. It's a move that makes sense. I feel
Mate,
like we sound like a bit of
yeah,
a broken record when we say it's a move
there's
that makes
not
sense.
more else to say than
It's, he just
nice.
isn't ready for Championship football yet.
No.
Um, it's one of them where he's definitely got a player there,
Yeah.
but he just hasn't proved it at town yet. Which first 6 months he was injured, and then second 6 months
Well, we
for
signed him injured, didn't we?
really,
We signed
really,
him injured.
yeah. We were in a bad position, and he's never going to get minutes in that position. And I think this season
No.
where he's not going to get minutes again, makes sense to send him to a League One club, Northampton. Signing that makes sense for
Fine.
them.
Yeah. Good
Nothing really
luck.
much more to say on it.
Yeah, I don't think that's
And I think
anything
there's
to
one
say.
more thing to touch on really this episode, and that's the rumours, however true they may be, about Jordan Rowe potentially departing in the next maybe hours, days. Jordan Rhodes to Derby. He apparently scored two against them when the clubs played a friendly behind closed doors. Um, Obviously it's nothing concrete at the moment, so we'll kind of not speak on it too much. But Rhodes to Derby, it's one of them. Is what it is. Anything to add, Jay?
Don't get me started. It makes sense. I'll be gutted when he leaves, but he's not scoring goals. He's one doesn't like him. It's quite evident. Yeah, it'll hurt because he's your childhood icon.
Yeah.
You grew up watching Road 17 on his back, but he's not that anymore, is he?
No,
So
he's not. No.
there's nothing official. I'm sure we'll sit down for 30, 40 minutes and talk about Jordan Rhodes when he does leave because the guy's a legend, absolute legend. But it's not that time yet. But I
No.
think the end's near, isn't it?
The end is near, yeah. And the end is near with this podcast too. I think that's time to wrap it up. God, I'm good. But yeah, thank you for joining us today. As always, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to Jay. And yeah, please like and share this on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. And just as a reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, we are available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, probably the Google alternative too. Yeah, thank you for listening, and we shall see you next time.